and we were saying, "Take it easy. You're with friends, just as we say on Clubhouse." And they said, "Oh, I recognize your voice." It was on Clubhouse. And I said, "Yes, you did such an awesome job on Clubhouse." And there was more. There was a larger audience. So just pretend you're on Clubhouse.
That's a
And they
great
did such an amazing job. They won as well, didn't they,
Yeah, they did.
Cliently?
Yeah. They did great.
And I
So
think Cheryl and you guys lifted them here first. So super.
So, Tyler, is that only Swedish startups or anyone that can make it to the event?
anyone who can make it to the event, we often, in fact, recently had a dozen Korean startups on stage who had come in from Korea. We often have Finnish startups from Finland and all over the region. So we don't really discriminate with regard to that. We kind of try to match the startups to whoever the investors are on stage and whatever that investor typically likes to invest in is sort of the main criteria. So yep.
How about do you do like pre-screening or whatever, or just anybody coming in? Because sometimes, when you have a pitch event, they normally have a criteria where they pre-select the companies, the startups at least.
We get a lot of people requesting the pitch, and then we pick the ones that are most appropriate. Yeah.
I
Okay.
love that you have that when you apply, when you just register for the event, you get the question automatically, would you like to pitch here? And then, of course, it goes through your selection process.
Right.
But it's great to have that offering. And of course, also being able to nominate others. I think it's great.
Right.
I was really extra awesome last night.
Thanks. Okay, let's get into the tech news as we do. Before we do, let's cover Ukraine quickly as we do. Was there any notable Ukraine headlines since we met last time?
Well, you've got the NATO meeting, Tyler. But,
NATO and G20 and G7, or what is? Yeah, it's like a triple meeting going on.
Yeah. But when you get to tech news, it's a really big tech news story. So I'm going to stop talking, and you guys can go talk about Ukraine. Let me know when you get to tech news.
Okay. Anyone else with the Ukraine-related story that we got to jump into?
Yeah, that they successfully blew up one of the landing craft in the harbor, just 30 kilometers from Odessa, and that is only one of 5 or 6 landing craft in the same size. So they lost one of these together with all the tanks and APV and personal equipment. I had no idea of casualties, but it was a big bada boom.
Right. I saw a video of that. And then I saw a video of a fleeing Russian ship, kind of rightfully scared after watching the ship next to it get blown up. There's Odessa is quickly becoming the focus. Yeah.
Annika here. Zelensky held a session with the Swedish Parliament today. Everybody stood up and applauded, and he added a warning that it's a lot of chatter in Russia regarding possible invasion of Gotland. I think he more wanted to provoke that, think the unthinkable. But it's remarkable that, this have been war gamed for at least the last, 80 years. And suddenly, in the middle of a war, the politicians stand up and says, yes, that might be possible. So, just a comment. Thanks.
Let me unpack that for the non-Swedes in the room. And thank you for sharing that, Annika, that Zelensky had a private video link with the Swedish politicians today?
Yeah, exactly, with the Swedish Parliament.
Right, Riksdag as we call it. And he, as part of that, he warned them that, according to his intelligence, that Russia is rumored to be considering attacking Gotland, which is an island, which is a Swedish island, a rather substantial Swedish island with a lot of Swedes on it, which happens to be in the Baltic Sea, in between Sweden and Russia.
Yeah, and the thing is, think of Gotland from a Russian point of view as a stationary carrier. So if you have Gotland, then you can block NATO from basically sending forces to the Baltic countries.
Yes.
So if you have take Gotland, then you have complete air superiority in the Baltics and
Right.
can complete and will
Right.
make any attempt by NATO to help the Baltic countries, which is the end goal,
Right.
too
Right.
costly, basically.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
let me unpack this a little bit because, as every Swede knows, Gotland, and as Annika's making the point, Gotland is strategically incredibly important to Russia. Would love to have Gotland, and because there's an airport there, and that is just smack dab in the center of the Baltic, and whoever controls Gotland and that airport would have air superiority over the Baltics, basically, and the Baltic states, and would be a formidable force against Sweden and Finland and Denmark and the whole in northern Poland and everything. So, indeed, if Gotland must be very, very, very high on Putin's to-do list if he were to go outside of Ukraine. Yes, so it's very possible that Zelensky is sort of bluffing, but perhaps only half bluffing, because it's very logical that he would have a very keen interest in Gotland, and Sweden knows this. Sweden's been worried about that possibility for a very, very long time, and the sad truth is it wouldn't be that hard for him to take. It's kind of the the scary truth. Um,
Can
so
I just add about the island of Bornholm, which is a Danish island in the Baltics?
yeah,
And that is situated right south of Sweden. We actually like it doesn't geographically belong to Denmark as much as Sweden, but we got it. And that island is actually after Second World War, the Russian forces took 2 years to leave it. It was the last land area that they left after Second World War. So the Baltic Sea and the islands there are definitely of strategic importance. And just when the war started in Ukraine, Danish army got to highest priority in the area of Bornholm. So there's definitely some things going on there, and it's also the area that have been consequently crossing the Danish and Swedish borders with submarines and airplanes. So yes, it has been an ongoing story for a long time that there's a huge interest in these two islands. Susie
Yes.
from Denmark, thank you.
And Susie, to follow Susie, as you know, Tyler, my country home is on Gotland. It's not only on Gotland, but it's uh, 50 feet from the easternmost point, and it's really unnerving to be there at the moment. I'm deliberately not going because it is unnerving to. You have these beautiful country homes and the contrast of beautiful, stunning island, and now there are tanks everywhere. There's such military presence on the entire island. Haven't
yeah.
seen that since the Cold
Think
War.
I meant to paint that picture as well. For those who haven't had the pleasure, Google it if you want to see one of the most picturesque, postcard, beautiful, just stunning. Gotland is a truly stunningly beautiful, community of gorgeous, quaint, dreamy, country homes, and it's stunning. It's truly stunning. And it would just be the idea that would get bombed, or that anything should ever happen to Gotland would be truly heartbreaking.
We shouldn't forget either that Russia has stationed Iskander missiles in Kaliningrad, this little
Right.
Russian enclave, and they have a reach about 500 kilometers, so they can be targeted both at Gotland, southern Sweden, Bornholm, and I think also Copenhagen, as well as part of Germany and of course the Baltics.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't have to sort of go anywhere to start with, if we see that. But on the other hand, I must say that I think that Putin seemed to have a lot on his hand in Ukraine right now. So I don't think we should panic. Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah, on Gotland, everyone constantly, since the well, as you say, Tyler, it's been a strategic location for, and very, very, uh, ever since as my father will tell, when they were there during the World War, that they say on Gotland, the Gotlandic people, that we are lucky that Gotland belongs to Sweden, because otherwise we would have been part of Russia long ago.
Mm. Okay, so I think we can get into the big tech headlines, as I know Ken is eager to do. So shall we do that? Yeah,
Yeah.
let me
So,
let
go ahead.
me, let me hit the air horn. We have protocols here, very strict protocols. Here we go. There it is. All right. Happy Thursday, March 24th. Ken, you want to kick us off with the first tech story today?
Yeah, I think the big news that came out in the last 24 hours and came out since this we met last is that Spotify and Google have reached a deal where Spotify, if you get Spotify through the Google app, you will have a choice of how you can pay. You could either pay through Google, which is similar to paying through Apple, and then Google would get a cut, just like Apple gets a cut on its system, or you can pay directly to Spotify, and obviously Spotify is going to pay Google something to allow this, but it's going to be less than if somebody had just gone through Google. And I think the Google's doing this, and maybe to pick up, or Android, I should say Google or Android, they're doing this, I think, to pick up market share, or trying to pick up market share, from iOS. So they're giving something up in the hopes of getting obviously good publicity, and also more volume that people will choose, who haven't already the problem is, it's only really for people who don't already have Spotify. If you already have Spotify, which a lot of people do, but they have reached a deal that's kind of aimed to break up the um, strength of Apple in the app stores. And I tweeted that out. So I don't know if you want to. I mean, I just gave you a synopsis. Do you want me to, you want to pick the article, or?
Keep going.
Oh, okay. No, I mean, I think that's basically it. They didn't release terms. There is a quote from your friend Daniel Ek.
Mhm.
I have to find that quote. But here it is. Okay, this is there's a quote from Daniel Ek somewhere here in this story.
I see his
Um,
here. He on Twitter. He just said today, Google Play and Spotify announced a groundbreaking agreement that enables customer choice and sets the stage for what the next generation platform should look like.
yeah. This is let's see. I guess this is from some guy who's not Daniel, but this is says I think this is the chief freemium officer for Spotify. Says Spotify is on a years-long journey to ensure app developers have the freedom to innovate and compete on a level playing field. I had seen, maybe it was because I've looked at like 3 articles on this. Somewhere, one of them has Daniel quoted. So I don't have that in front of me. Actually, it may be in Variety, the Variety article. Yeah, so there's a Variety article as well, which I didn't tweet out. I tweeted out something else because it's being covered by multiple people. Um, you know
Okay.
what? I don't have it in front of me, so you can that. I mean, I did see Daniel did something, but I don't have it in front of me.
No big deal. The big takeaway from this is that Google is proactively, preemptively getting ahead of where they know the lawmakers' heads are going, right? And this is kind of, I think, brilliant on Google's part, is rather than wait for the regulators to come and beat you over the head, as is happening at the moment in the Netherlands with Apple, very specifically, where the Netherlands and Korea have told Apple, you must allow apps the ability to charge directly to their users instead of forcing yourself into into the middle of that transaction with your in-app payment systems. And Apple's not complying, and the courts are fining Apple now on a weekly basis, something $5 million a week or whatever it is. And Apple's like, yeah, we don't care. We're going to pay the fine, but we're going to keep injecting ourselves in the middle of that transaction. And Google sees the writing on the wall, and it knows that they're next in line to get their, be dealt with. So rather than receive the punishment, they proactively be the good student and do the homework and get it done and look like they are, I think it's smart. I've seen Google consistently do exactly this type of maneuvering where they get hey, you know what? Call me crazy, a little conspiracy music. Maybe Google has access to the emails of these politicians and knows what's about to go down. And so they don't resist, why resist it when you know they've got their heart set on breaking up precisely these kinds of schemes. And so Google changes course and plays friendly with everybody. It's smart. I think it's very smart. I wonder if they do have access to those emails. They very likely do. So it says, amid increasing global regulations over app stores and their commission structures, Google today announced the launch of a pilot program designed to explore what it calls user billing choice. The program will allow a small number of participating developers, starting with Spotify, to offer an additional third-party billing option next to the Google's Play-owned billing system in their apps. Yeah, you don't have a choice, Google. You're just I love how you're coming out with this like as if it was your idea, when in fact it's the politicians are going to force you to do this anytime in about a month or so, and you've read their emails and you're going to proactively come out and act as if it was your bright idea. I love it. Smart. Super smart. That's part of the power of being an email platform and being able to read those emails. Okay.
Hey
So
Tyler, I'm trying to go back and find out the detail, because my on the thing about whether Apple is now having to pay the fine. I know on December 9th they got a stay. They went on the injunction, on the original judicial ruling. So I'm not sure they're paying. I mean, do you think they're paying this? I mean, the concept of a stay would be that they wouldn't be paying until the case is resolved, I'm guessing. But I'm trying to find out whether somehow payments, whether they're still having to pay a fine despite not, maybe the stay was just about not complying with the judge's order, but there was they actually delayed part of this
hmm,
in December.
yep, I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah. To
Okay.
be
Yeah.
to be continued. The next top story is from Bloomberg. Researchers say that a 16-year-old from England is the mastermind behind the Lapsus group. 7 unique accounts associated with Lapsus were identified. Cybersecurity researchers investigating a string of hacks against technology companies, including Microsoft and NVIDIA. And it's now been revealed that the mastermind is a 16-year-old, which makes sense given some of the findings that have been occurring, and some of the correspondences indicate that Lapsus wasn't Nobel Prize winners, let's put it this way, or seasoned veterans, let's put it that way. So the next article, Twitter is finally rolling out an update to its direct messaging system that lets users search their messages for content, not just the names of the people you're talking with. And this is coming out on both Android and Apple and the web. So, and all of their platforms all at once. That's great. So you can now search your DMs just like you can your email messages, the contents of the messages itself. That's very, very helpful. The next is from the Wall Street Journal that Uber reaches an agreement to list all New York City taxis inside of its app, rolling out in the spring. And Uber has always known that that would be one of the ways that it could sort of, play nice with the cab companies and get them all up in it. And once they're all up in the system, then they'll stop being so anti-Uber and everything else. So anyway, now you've got all of the yellow cabs in New York City inside of the Uber app. The next one is Apple is planning a MacBook Air with a 15-inch display and an entry-level iPad with a display, with a much larger display as well. Okay, that's nice. And then we've got this one from The Verge that,
Tyler,
yes.
before you continue, do you still want to run Twitter Space and put your link, live stream link, on Twitter?
No, it's okay.
Okay.
The next one is one of the lead creators of the GIF standard, GIF, the image compression algorithm. His name is Stephen Willite, has died at the age of 74. And he worked on the GIF while employed by CompuServe in the 1980s. And I'm pronouncing it wrong, as the default way to pronounce it is GIF. Okay, so the next is from Wired, an attack on Viasat's satellite internet service. As Russia's war began impacting 27,000 users in Europe beyond Ukraine, thousands of users remain offline due to some down satellites from Viasat. And the Financial Times has a sister related article saying it's about an inside look at Ukrainian efforts to repel Russian cyber attacks on critical infrastructure, as some worry that early success might be unwound over time. The next is from the Washington Post. The FBI seems to be targeting disgruntled staff working at the Russian embassy in Washington, D.C. via geo-targeted recruitment ads on Facebook, Twitter, and Google. That's too funny. The FBI is trying a new novel strategy to recruit Russian-speaking individuals upset about the country's invasion in Ukraine. And they're spear phishing targeting them with adverts via Facebook, Twitter, and Google ads. So the team members who work at the Russian embassy in Washington, D.C. are being directly targeted with social media ads to figure out if they're disgruntled and might be able to leak some juicy details. The next one is Ukraine's Minister Fedorov, who's the mastermind behind all of their digital doings, says that Ukraine is using Clearview AI's tools to identify the bodies of dead Russian soldiers and inform families. And I wonder what our friend Charles would make of that, being that he's one of the co-founders of Clearview AI. So let's see if we can ping in Charles to make a comment about this headline, because it was also revealed recently that Clearview offered this to Ukraine free of charge. Here we go. Let's see if Charles might join us. Ping sent, it says. Okay. So Cheryl or any of the regular tech newsers, if you see Charles join the room, please let me know as I read the headlines here. And let's see here. Google executives faced criticism at an all-hands meeting after an internal survey showed that staff are increasingly unhappy about pay. Sundar Pichai, the CEO, said pay assessments could change. Okay. Reuters says that the Roskomnadzor, which is that's Russia's communications regulator, has blocked Google News, saying it provided access to inauthentic information, aka fake news, about Russia's war in Ukraine. So how dare you, Google News, try to share fake news with Russians about what's happened in Ukraine? Google says it will bar ads from appearing next to websites, apps, and YouTube channels that exploit, dismiss, or condone the Russia-Ukraine war. So there's a whole media war happening between the social media apps and Russia, very notably. And speaking of Spotify, as we did earlier, Spotify reports a 2021 royalty payments, and the question is, how much did Spotify pay to rights holders? Okay, now that is a perfect opportunity to play one of our favorite games here at Tech News. It's called Tech News Jeopardy. So the question again: how much money did Spotify pay in dollars in 2021 to music rights holders?
A lot.
600 million.
One.
Messi? Earth to Messi.
Just throw a number, Messi.
Must be billions.
Yep. Throw a
Messi?
I
number.
mean that they paid out, not that right holders received, but that they pay out to the right holders.
Come on, Messi. What do we think it is?
Messi, you always win this one.
Anyone else want to wager a guess?
Messi, stop Googling it. No, I'm kidding.
That was good.
Okay. The correct answer is $7 billion was paid out to music rights holders.
Wow. So how much did they earn? I mean, Spotify. Let me see.
And then the question is how much of that went to record labels, which are, hold a whole lot of the streaming rights of their artists. And the question is how much?
97%.
Somewhere in that neighborhood for sure. And then the question is how many artists actually own their own streaming rights? Well, if they're on a major label, nearly none of them. And that's why artists complain that Spotify doesn't pay them money, because they signed contracts that gave away their streaming rights to their record labels or to their publishers or whoever conned them out of their streaming rights. And shame on their lawyers for not explaining that to them. But stop blaming Spotify for the fact that you signed a contract that gave away your streaming rights. And stop blaming Spotify for paying. They're paying $7 billion a year for the streaming rights. That money is going to somebody, and it's very much going to the people who own the rights. Whether or not that's you as the stupid band who gave away your rights, that's your problem. Stop blaming Spotify for your stupidity. Spotify paid $7 billion to music rights holders in 2021. 1,000 artists make more than $1 million a year. More than 16,000 artists generate more than $50,000 a year. Spotify launched its Loud and Clear website in March 2021 with the aim of increasing transparency about its payouts to the music industry. And Daniel Ek has done a whole bunch of tweets on this topic. I will share some of those with you now. He says, overall, last year, Spotify paid out more to the music industry than any other service and more than any single retailer in history in a single year. There are winners across the industry. Major label streaming revenue are healthier than ever, meaning that the major labels own the streaming rights. Publishers earned $1 billion from Spotify for a second year running, and 28% of artists who generated $10,000 or more from Spotify self-distribute. Oh, do you understand what that means? Well, let me unpack that for you. That's a very important point that he's making there. That the artists who make more than $10,000 a year, they own their own streaming rights. They self-distribute. And 34% live in countries outside of the top 10 music markets. Not only is the industry today more lucrative, but it's also less concentrated. In the CD era, the era where people bought CDs, 25% of sales went to the top 50 artists. Ooh, that's a sick burn. 25% of sales went to just 50 artists. On Spotify, that number has now been cut in half, with only 12% of revenue going to the top 50 artists. So it's more diversified. So take that. Just like the hyper-competitive worlds of film and sports, it's difficult to make it in music. I get that, he says, but the figures we're sharing show that Spotify is improving on the music industry of the past, and more artists are able to stand out in the streaming era. Music matters to the world and to Spotify. It's where we started and what continues to inspire us as we build the most valuable platforms for artists. We're nowhere near done, he says. Okay, interesting article. The next is from our friends at Instacart. Instacart will build micro fulfillment warehouses for grocery retailers to support 15-minute deliveries, launching in the coming months. As you heard me say many months ago, when we had Max Mullen, a dear old friend of mine from Santa Monica, who's the OG CTO at Instacart, also an angel investor in Clubhouse, who has popped into tech news once or twice. And we did a quick little interview with him. I remember that. You might as well. And I told you that Instacart was going to start automating and doing micro fulfillment. And you have to make special, if you want to do 15-minute deliveries at scale, the only way to do that is to make new fulfillment centers, what they're calling micro fulfillment warehouses, specifically designed for speed. Because having a human running up and down aisle 5 is not optimized for speed. That's optimized for like choice and several other things, but not speed. So you need a kind of highly optimized micro fulfillment center to do 15-minute deliveries. You can save 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes per order, which is very much needed if you want to get down to 15-minute deliveries. So anyway,
Tyler, do you think this is a kind of a micro version of like what Webvan did? But Webvan had really large warehouses. There was also another company called Home Grocer that was a smaller version of Webvan, and they both failed because of, I mean, they were probably inventorying too much stuff. They had big warehouses, and I think the success of Instacart was they said, hey, we'll have no warehouses, and we'll just send people to go pick up stuff in Kroger's and Albertsons and more traditional supermarkets, and so we're not going to have to build warehouses. So now all of a sudden they're building some version of a warehouse.
yeah, I think the game has fundamentally changed. When you're starting out, you don't have a lot of capital, and you got to go with the most economical option, which is, you don't invest heavily in infrastructure. Yeah, you just have pay per order and go get that thing fulfilled. Just lower cost, but slower fundamentally. And now that the game is shifting more towards, people want this 15-minute delivery stuff. And I think part of the reason that the whole market segment is moving towards 15-minute deliveries is, I believe, related to the Google phenomena. And what is the Google phenomena? The Google phenomena is the reason Google won the search engine wars was because they optimized for speed. And when you talk to hardcore Googlers long enough, they'll eventually get to this point where they believed that their secret sauce was when you did a Google search and hit, search, that you would get results near instantly. And it felt instant. And they measured the speed of that. And they realized that the time between you clicking search and the time when the searches were delivered was critically important in the stickiness and the habitual usage of Google itself. And that even a tenth of a second delay would increase the churn rate of the user. Like users would become less habitual in using Google even with a tenth of a second delay. So they've always very much optimized for speed. And I believe when you get a user who is using a service or product subconsciously, and that's truly the power of Google that I think most people are unaware of. Most people are not aware consciously of the little micro muscle movement they do when they do a Google search, whether you have a little keystroke that you do with your left hand or a particular little movement with your mouse with your right hand or whatever that is. At some point, it becomes subconscious and automatic. And that's only enabled due to incredibly high speed of Google's returns. So they know that they want to create that muscle memory, automatic, subconscious, so that when you think you want something, that you kind of go into this pattern that humans have, and they don't want to break that pattern. I think the same will be true of deliveries, where the faster you can get the delivery to the user, the more of a habitual pattern they can get into. And that's why these 15-minute deliveries, and they're trying to get down to 10-minute deliveries. And you start forming habits very quickly when you get immediate responses like that. So there's a sister article that says that Instacart launches Instacart Platform, which offers software management services for e-commerce fulfillment, ads, that's an important part, insights and analytics, and other data for grocery stores. So the Instacart platform sounds like a kind of a brilliant idea, I gotta say. Let's unpack this a little bit.
Are they opening their own, or are they going to house themselves somehow inside of existing grocery stores?
I think they might want to empower the brands that have consumer relationships. And because, let me put it this way, Instacart does some things very well that supermarkets don't, which is they can enable 15-minute delivery, right? Vaughn's, Kroger, Albertsons, Safeway, all the big supermarket brands would love to be able to do 15-minute delivery. They cannot. They cannot figure out how to do that. Instacart can. Instacart does. Instacart has all of the data, the analysis, the AI, all of the bells and whistles, all of the geekery to enable this. And they can offer that as a platform to those supermarkets so that they can evolve into the 21st century of 15-minute delivery shopping. And along with that comes all of that sweet, juicy data. And
Wrap my head.
Yeah.
Such a different play in the sense that, like, if, like, I guess one of the big benefits of working inside of a grocery store is the inventory is already there, and then you have economies of scale, and then you had people that would, kind of like Uber in a way. They would, I guess, like log in and work and then do it that way. But that's like a huge model shift.
It is, but I think it's a genius move. If they can offer the supermarkets a deal they can't refuse, this is very similar to what Google does with you and me, where Google makes us an offer we can't refuse, and next thing you know, we become overly dependent on Google and there's no alternatives, and now they've got us where they want us. Instacart, in theory, could do the same, where they offer this whole suite that enables ads and data and insight and fulfillment and everything, and a very elegant app and everything that the supermarkets themselves should be doing but can't bring themselves to do. And the question is, would Instacart be able to then they've injected themselves into the chain of things, and I imagine they'll do it in such a way that the supermarkets will be overly dependent on Instacart and have a difficult time weaning themselves off of it once they're on it, and might even potentially be able to, at some point, I don't want to use the word rug pull, but circumvent the brand down the road if they should choose to do so.
Smells so Amazon.
Yeah, Tyler, I would like to comment about both Amazon and Uber, because Uber has Uber Eats, which is functionally going and picking something up and delivering it. They even have, in some markets, here in Austin, they have Uber, I think it's called like Connect or something, where a person can use, if you've got a gift you want to send across town, for rather than the round trip price of you driving there in an Uber and driving home, they'll give you a break on that round trip price, but they'll only pay the driver the single fare, because that's all the driver does is go one leg. and they just use the same uh, UI and app flow as Uber Eats. So here's the deal: what's Instacart going to do when Uber Eats can undercut all of their delivery drivers with superior AI and um, basically drop the floor out of them? That's the question I wanted to ask.
I think they're all racing to autonomous vehicle delivery.
Well, so the last mile becomes a bigger challenge when you're delivering a bunch of goods that are cold, that are timely, and that need to go up 3 flights of stairs of an apartment. That now has that consumer has been, trust me, during the energy apocalypse that happened a year ago in February here in Austin. The people whose pantries weren't full of anything to eat at all were the people that were hooked on instant gratification delivery of food. So
Yeah,
if you start to make groceries instant gratification, now you're in the opposite of critical thinking,
yeah,
subcritical thinking,
yeah,
and food, energy, and water.
yeah.
We're now creating the matrix by plugging the computer in through desire, the other portal to the brain.
Okay. So the next one is TikTok creators say that a glitch in the registration process for TikTok's Creator Fund has prevented signups for weeks. The fund started at $200 million last year. Okay. Experts say that AI tools lack the training data needed to understand the cultural meanings of images, recipes, and other data concerning underrepresented cultures, according to the New York Times. Okay. Any other really interesting articles today? Let's see. A look at Roblox experiences created by large retail brands like Gucci, Nike, and Ralph Lauren, with some offering virtual items for Roblox. And YouTube makes nearly 4,000 TV episodes available for free with ads in the US and plans to add up to 100 shows and movies every single week. Instagram rolls out chronological following and favorite feeds to all mobile users globally.
Hey, Tyler, can I just go back to that YouTube story for one second? You're
Sure.
you're seeing that across the streaming space, by the way. You're going to see more and more the ad supported services, because they're cheaper than ad free services in terms of the subscription, are getting faster updates. And one of the most interesting thing is, people know Netflix has no ads, and Netflix executives have historically said, we will never. I mean, they were like, absolutely, we will never have ads. They've softened that tone, by the way, that they're kind of watching the space. And I wouldn't be surprised some point, maybe within 3 years. I don't think it's going to be 6 months, but within 3 years, you may see an alternative for Netflix that's ad supported, that's a cheaper price, because the growth is in the ad supported streaming services.
So now we get into the big tweets. Like
Tyler,
this
can I ask a
one.
quick question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Or on the Roblox, the designer brands that are going into Roblox, isn't Roblox for kids? Isn't that where kids go in and code and learn how to do games?
I would say so, yeah.
Yeah, and if it is, so they're really getting early eyes on marketing if it's Gucci and those brands, because kids aren't usually wearing Gucci at that age, right? So they're trying. It sounds like they're trying to get in early. Is
Fair
that
enough. Yeah,
unless I knows differently?
yeah. Okay. The first tweet for today is from Katerina. Scientists say that quantum tech will charge electric cars as fast as gas cars. A new paper suggests that quantum technology could allow future electric vehicle owners to be able to charge their cars in just 3 minutes. And no doubt, we will continue to improve and evolve the technology until it charges in a flash. And even charges itself on the road so that you don't even have to stop to charge it. By the way, that's already being tested in multiple places, including Stockholm. The next one is scientists in Switzerland discovered that gut microbiome postbiotic, a new recent clinical study shows that a natural molecule called urolithin A can significantly improve muscle endurance in older people. So more argument for the importance of your gut biome. And the next one is from our friend Heyman in Toronto. Scientists, that's an old article, Heyman. That's from many weeks ago. Motivation to achieve goals may depend on anxiety levels. The motivation to exert sustained effort to achieve a goal following stress depends on an individual's level of trait anxiety. So make sure you're not stressed if you want to achieve your goals. So the
Hey,
next,
Tyler.
yes, sir.
Sorry, I couldn't get off mute fast enough on the microbiome issue. Just to reiterate what we've talked about many times in this room, you can farm your microbiome by what you eat, and a plant-based diet is demonstrably healthier for your microbiome, which is healthier for your immune system, which makes you live a longer life. And oh, by the way, it reduces your carbon footprint dramatically. So plant-based diet is better for your health and better for the planet.
Okay. So other interesting tweets that people are sharing, like this one from Thomas Tong, that a biotech company is paying more than $1,200 a month for your poop. A U.S. biotech company is paying $1,200 per month for your poo-poo. The company is developing a treatment for reducing recurrent Clostridium infection that requires a lot of human excrement. That's some expensive shit right there. The next is a private company just made a huge breakthrough in nuclear fusion. A British company called Tomahawk Energy has announced that it has reached the 100 million Celsius threshold for commercially viable nuclear fusion. And it's every week now we see a headline of people claiming progress in solving the nuclear fusion energy issue. Let's pray to God they continue to do that. At this rate, we might see it in our lifetime for sure. So the next is what else? What else do we got? Oh, a lot of people sharing the Spotify news today. Thank you, Sarah. NPR. BB has one from NPR that the war in Ukraine, according to the war, some data related to the war on Ukraine, the U.S. will accept up to 100,000 Ukrainian refugees. President Biden will announce a $1 billion in new funding for humanitarian aid. And what else? There's a new one from Dr. Heyman, which asks, do older adults using statins have lower risk of developing Parkinson's later? Well, that's some clickbait. They don't really answer the question. BB, you shared one from CNET about Apple opens digital driver's licenses and state ID programs in Arizona. And Apple on Wednesday said its new digital license technology can be used at TSA security checkpoints in Phoenix and soon in other airports. I guess that's the whole promise of doing that is you can now no longer have to carry your state ID card separately. It'll be part of your Apple Wallet. And North Korea tests a possible ballistic missile, Japan says, according to CNN. And BBC also reporting about some American folks fighting on the front lines in the Ukraine, the war on Ukraine. What else do we got here? Ukraine tells Russia, die or surrender, as the Kyiv counterattack drives Russia back. Ukraine officials claimed to have gained ground around their capital city, but the military experts and U.S. officials have warned of a long road ahead. But it seems that the tide is turning there. What else do we have? Russia's gold stockpile is being targeted in new G7 sanctions. G7 leaders have announced they are restricting the Russian central bank's use of gold in transactions. And Russia holds roughly $130 billion in gold reserves. But that
And
could
at the same time, Putin said you have to buy the gas with rubles. So,
That's right. That was one of the biggest headlines here in Europe today because Germany ostensibly wants to continue to buy some fuel from Russia. Now Russia is saying that you will have to do so in rubles. That would force them to convert their own currency into rubles and pay in rubles. And Russia, of course, would love that. But it's a little that one's a little bit strange.
Could have an
So
impact on the petrodollar.
so does it mean that the Russian currency is now backed by gas?
I think Putin is trying to stop the
Devaluation of the ruble.
devaluation of ruble. Yeah.
Oh, by the way, since we are on this topic, Tyler, did you see that article that I sent you regarding Thailand banning Bitcoin and other crypto payments?
Yes.
So, and the other day you mentioned that digital nomads are welcome in Phuket, right? So just to make sure, don't just bring your crypto wallet. You need credit cards to
Right.
live in Thailand. So.
Yeah, the question is, why is Thailand banning Bitcoin and cryptos? They also have strong ambitions to do their own central bank digital currency. They also have been listed as one of the very few countries, Thailand and UAE, as being interested in testing China's central bank digital currency. And I hope that this headline from yesterday, that China is banning Bitcoin and all other cryptos, is not in some preliminary move to preparing to test the China central bank digital currency. That this isn't a kind of a request of China. But I don't think that it is. But we will find out soon enough.
But the Thailand government did mention months before that they're working on the digital Thai baht, right?
That's right. What else? That's pretty much it, yeah? Is that it for today? U.S. to sanction over 300 Russian elites and block Russian central bank gold. And basically, all of their parliament members will now be sanctioned. And here's the article from Mahogany. Thailand bans Bitcoin and other crypto payments starting April 1st. Regulators seek to shut down risk of cyber theft and money laundering. Yeah.
Oh, one more.
Yeah.
Singapore is opening up the border, so anybody from any countries who are fully vaccinated can now enter Singapore quarantine free. From
Okay.
I think it's 1st April too, yeah.
I'm going to end it today on this cheerful note from the New York Times that the UN chief, Antonio Guterres, warns of a catastrophe with continued use of fossil fuels. The United Nations Secretary General said, instead of replacing Russian oil, gas, and coal, nations must pivot to clean energy or face a catastrophe. And I think he's exactly right. So we'll leave you on that very happy note. And we will meet again tomorrow.
That was fast.
That was a fast one. This is the fastest one I think we've done in maybe ever, honestly. What was that?
Yeah.
An hour and 12 minutes. That's by far the fastest we've ever done. But it is what it is. And I actually have a second event that I'm speaking at in about 45 minutes here in Stockholm. So maybe if some of you are in the neighborhood, I might see you there. But we'll meet again tomorrow. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Tyler.